Hi guys, welcome to another code film, the linking code film. This is going to be episode 3 of linking. We looked at databases. We looked at that's for episode 1. We looked at the introduction. Episode 2, we looked at how that was done in the database, and this is the USSD section. It's going to be a long series, but it will be in episodes. So I want us first of all to look at the USSD, the work that has been done for us to have a USSD menu, and then the programming the programming aspect of it. There are some security concerns, a PIN API and an AOP login, and that is also part of this series. So it's step by step. We want to put everything to one. It's a whole of it contains a lot of stuff. So I wouldn't talk too much. So first of all, let's look at before what we talked about, that our USSD linking was taking place in the back end. That's at the database side. So I'll swing to my SQL workbench and try and log in to my database. And then we said that our design focus was for customers or end users to link their own Ghana card to their account instead of coming to the branch to do that, and we've explained that in the episode 1 and episode 2. So I'm logging into the database to actually look at how the linking was being done. So if I do a select star, first of all I have to use the database, or select that database and do a select star. So our table has altered a little bit, yes, because I did some work on it. I'll explain something like status opened, and then we have pin number, which is in string, but it doesn't look like a recognizable string, and we also have plain pin number, which is actually the pin number of the customer. And this is the Ghana card linkage that is being done at the back end. And we said that this is not how we want to do. So we actually have our query that we can use to do that. And this is being done at the back. I have to log into my SQL workbench to actually do the linking for a customer. So if I want to do another customer, I'll say update customers, set Ghana card number to GHA 15678, just random string for the sake of our lectures, but there's a format that it will follow, and you can ensure that format is being followed by using some programming techniques, regex, validation, so many things. Alright, let's continue. So now we want to say update this customer, use this customer's Ghana card number, where and then the unique constraints or the unique fields are mostly the ID, because it's a primary key, and then in our context we made it the phone number and then the account number. These are the unique constraints we can use to actually the phone number and then the Ghana card number. Ghana card, you wouldn't want to make the account number unique, you want to automatically generate it in some way, just assign it to the field from what I know. So let's use a phone number, and then let's select this customer, his phone number, that's Jackson White, and because it's a string I'm using the double quotes, and then let's do that. So it says update was successful. So let's actually find that customer where his phone number is equal to, or we just pass to see if the Ghana card number has been linked. So you see, yes, it has been linked, it has been done. And then you can actually find that from the date modified. The date modified says 0904, and it says 9/1852. So it's actually a minute ago. So voila. But this is being done at the back end. It's done by somebody in the banking team. So it's done at the back office. This was done at the back office, or this operation was done at the back office, or at maybe a support unit or something. And the way this could have been done was customers maybe call in and share their Ghana card, or could be that customers send email to a support mail, support at maybe horizon bank.com. So they send their Ghana card. They send Ghana card via email, their Ghana card details. Ghana card details via email to this support unit, and then when support gets this Ghana card, there could be a verification they do to confirm it's the actual Ghana card, or they can take a screenshot of it. I'm sorry, they could ask for the actual copy or some scanned document of it, something that would prove that that's the actual Ghana card, and later they could go and verify. I don't know whether there's a portal. There could be a portal for that, for verification, but I'm just giving some way of doing this without this human beings being involved. That's back office, the bank still being involved, but this time around we want the customers themselves to do their own linking. So customers should link their own Ghana card from their end, and then the technology or the way this is being done, or the solution, is the USSD, because USSD applications are accessible via every phone can use USSD. That's every phone can use USSD, and also not only that, it doesn't need USSD, does not require, okay, it depends on the logic you use, but from what I know, it doesn't require internet connection. It can be accessed on every phone. USSD, because the technology behind USSD is the GSM technology. That's the technology behind USSD. So USSD voice, SMS, I'll say they are all, I'll say, okay, these are products from GSM, from the GSM technology, or their outwings or something of that sort. So yeah, that's how, just put that in your mind. So that's why we want to use USSD. So how did I know I could use USSD? It's quick. You have to just search Google. It's a technology, so don't worry about that. People go to school to also learn different fields. When you go to the workplace, everybody's bringing ideas, so knowledge is not in one person. Alright, so now that's what's being done now. If you look at this and it's not helping us, so now let's go and see the work that has been done using USSD, and I'll take my time to try and explain all the technical bits that go into the USSD menu programming. So first things first is, let's look at the work that has been done, because that's why we are here. So I'm loading Eclipse to actually find my project, or the code that, or the application that is going to do the USSD. While it loads, let me say that USSD is we built the USSD menu by using an API, and then there are some takeaways that you may want to know about USSDs, but that one I'll find a way of presenting it. Okay, so this is currently in use, so I have a session already. Okay, let's go. Right, so I have an open session, and let's load our USSD. Alright, so first of all, I have two projects here. Let me open them. I have two projects. I have one without security concerns, and there's one with security concerns, and there's a reason why I want us to look at both, but we'll start with which one should we start with? Okay, let's see. First of all, work has been done, so let's just see when that work that has been done. So let's look at, this is the one without security concerns, so I'll close this for now. So our screen will look clumsy for the projects. Alright, so this is our project. So this is the name of the project, Horizon Bank USSD Link Up. When it gets deployed, it can change. This name can change. Yeah, so the artifact IDs Horizon Bank Link USSD. Let me open this with better editor. Let's use the XML editor. Fantastic. Let's close this one now. So this is the actual project name, Horizon Bank USSD Link App. But you can actually change the project's name or the software you build or the service you've built using some plugins provided by Maven, and then that plugin you can do some configuration inside your build, and inside the build you can specify how you want it to be built, be it for deployment, be it for whatever purpose. It's just for you to know. But as it stands now, if these things are not available, the name that will be used for the name that we use to recognize your application is going to be this name. So for the avoidance of doubt, let me just run this with Maven. Let's open it in terminal, showing local terminal, and then let's just do Maven package. That's how to package your file for deployment or for it to run. Yep, basically there's more to this, but it's not the concern of this class. Okay, so we're having some errors here. What are errors? Compilation error, class column. It's coming from Hibernate. It seems our Hibernate configuration is not recognizing some one or two things. Let me just let's do this. So let's do a Maven update, force update of clean shot, clean project. Let's do it again. Let's see what we get. Yeah, so there's some old jars and stuff that have been mixed with the project, so don't worry about that. It's working now. So look at the name. The name is what I want us to look at. So the final building jar is Horizon Bank USSD Link App, and it just adds the version of this version. So if I wanted to change it, I'll just say I don't want it to be this. I'll just say Horizon USSD Link App, and let me add something else, maybe CodeFilms. So let's add it at the beginning. So let's say CodeFilms. Yeah, so this is the new name that will be used for deployment. Let's run our Maven. So before Maven package, Maven clean. Let's clean it first, then Maven package. Maven clean because I just want to keep things tidy, get rid of some old target stuff that were set up. And still we are getting our issue, so we have to use the force. We have to do by force. So come here, right click again, Maven update project, force update or snapshots of release. We are building again. It has to be Maven clean, Maven build. That's if you want to go by the terminal. Let's do this again. Alright, so you see our now our target changes to CodeFilms. So that's a new addition. And so that's just by the way for you to know that you can actually change the project. Maven clean. After cleaning is one command, and the Maven build has to be one command. And still we get the build has to specify a lifecycle or something. Pre-clean. Don't worry, if you don't want to go by command, just use the right click and then you're gone. Alright, let's continue. That's not my agenda for today. Okay, so right now we've seen that you can change the name. We've gone to the POM file, we looked at that. Okay, so now let's run our application and let's see what the work that has been done. We don't drift away from our agenda for today. So let's run up. There's a lot and lot of work here. Oops, I hit by another error. Cannot find the root main class Re-up. Wow. Why am I guessing this error? Am I not in main? Okay, so I think it's that build stuff. Yeah. Right, so application is running. Right, so now let's first of all, it's an API in the USSD. There is an API to do that, and then it's running on the server. The server is an embedded server, so this is the IP address that the server has provided for us, and this is the port number the server has provided for us. One thing I just know about this IP address is that it helps you I can accept connections from any IPv4 addresses. So if you want to use this, the server says you want to use this application, the server says that this is the IP issues and this is the port issues. For now, just put that in your head, but there's more to this IP concerning the number of and the allowed connections is speaking connections from all IP addresses, because it's not bound to a particular IP address or not tied to a particular IP address. Just put that in your mind. Alright, because it's a machine, it's a IPs are assigned to machines. Get that stuff. Yeah. So this is open. Alright, so that's it. So right now let's start our application, and then you start our application. Now let's see some work. We have to see some work. We are saying you have to see something. So to see something, there are two ways to test or run USSD application. The first way, one of the ways you can use to test a USSD application is to use a simulator, and then the other way is to use Postman. So these are the two ways: simulator and Postman. So the first way I'll use is Postman, because Postman is good for testing APIs. Just put that in your head. So we're going to use Postman to test this USSD app. Remember, it's a USSD, it's API based. Alright, I want to make my video as short as possible, but very quite explanatory. Right, so I'm going to create a collection for this. So I'll say create new collection. I'll call this Horizon Bank USSD link app. Alright, and then I'll create a request. So the request for this USSD is a post request. Alright, now let's go to the documentation. Now let's start. We've started the work now. So first thing, let's go back to our project structure. Now we have com.codefilms or ussd.view. That is the package written by me to help me know the view side of the application. Now every application, most web applications are mostly either presentation oriented or service oriented. So applications, so POAs or SOA, a service oriented application. So a presentation oriented application, what you've mostly been doing as an MVC, model view controller, whereby you always have a view and then it presents itself in the meme type is mostly HTML. Mostly HTML. That's the meme type, MIME type. Yeah. Or the rendering or the view rendering is HTML with some CSS. Okay, that's for presentation oriented. So that same concept is being used in USSD. USSD is mostly just front end, but the back end is your brain. But there's some technical concept to it. So we'll dive slowly into that. But let's see the work that has been done. First of all, I want to get the endpoint for this API. So I'll go to my application, and then this is my endpoint. It's a post request. So this is a post request. This is a post request because we will post to and it is an API, so we'll be posting to a certain API or a certain server you are making a post, over HTTP to another end, so it has to be to a receiver or an end, and that end is the person's API we are using, or the company's API we are using, the computer's API we are using. So this is the URL we need, because this is inside the application. So we'll go and copy it here, and it's a post request, so we'll change it to post. And then we are not yet done, and then no application is running from a web server, so we need to find the IP address of the server, the full URL. And then the full URL for this is, oh, I had a nice view here. I want to locate my app. My application is running somewhere, but I don't have my view to see where it's running. So console, yeah. So I want the IP. So this is what I want, and I'm just going to add this, and it's HTTP. How do I know it's HTTP? It says here starter server connector HTTP 1.1. yeah, so just construct the URL and add the rest to it. Okay, so right now if you do send this, it's going to, let's see what happens. I don't want to, it's not going to work as we want it to work, because when you are sending a post you need a body to it. So you see we are getting an exception, it's catching an exception, because we need to attach the body that's required for this API, and then that can be found by the documentation. So when we go to Africa Stocking documentation, this is the company that we are using its API to do the work. So for their API, it says that, first of all, don't worry about callbacks, I'll explain that later. It says the content type says that once you register your callback URL, any request you're receiving belonging to your service code will trigger an HTTP post request to the registered callback with the request data. You can read the data from the form fields of the request content type has to be application x www.form URL. All you have to do at this point is respond with the string that you like us to send back to the user. So it's saying that this is the type you have to set, so let's set that type, and this is just this type. Yeah, that's what it has done. For this, for the request. So for the post request, this is what is needed. So this is the post request, and down here is the the response. So top here is the request, down here is the response. So everything here concerns the request for the post, and anything down here concerns the response for the post. Okay, so right now, so we are posting. What are we posting to the API? We have to find out what's the payload. What's that payload like? So the way we are going to find out, so let's start from here. I've actually read their documentation before, so I've played with it before. So I'm just trying to, for the sake of tutoring. Right, so it says the API makes a HTTP post request to your server with the parameters shown below. You can read data set for the form fields by content type, and the request is made when the user downloads a USSD code every time. So I don't encode that. So let's look at the session ID. So the parameters for the post are session ID. So let's create those parameters. So you come here, you type session ID. You come here, type phone number. You come here, you type network code. Type service code. You can type the text too as well. For now, don't worry about the network code for now. We don't really need that. It's not really, you don't really need that for now. Yeah, so you just forget about this and let's do this. So the reason I'm saying that is because they have a code snippet here. The code snippet is session, service code, post, phone number, and text. If you don't want it in PHP, you can change it to Java, and it's the same. Session ID, service code, phone number, text. So the session The network code for now, you just leave that for now. You don't, unless you are going full scale deployment and stuff, not yet. So you are just testing. So don't worry about that. Okay. So this is just the starter file, but everything here you have to write code for it. You have to write your own logic for it. So we'll get there. Alright, so session ID, phone number, service code, and text. So the session ID, you just type for now, just type href1. Phone number, just type your equivalent phone number. Then service code, just type 852. I'll explain all this later, and don't type anything for the text. Then fire the request again. Let's see what we get. Voila. So our USSD is showing, and then we are seeing some con here. What does con mean? So this is how we know, this is how to test it with postman. So let's add network code. Cancel the network code. Find the network code. I have to find the network code for 027. We'll be going too deep into aggregators and stuff, and I just started. So, but I know some people are very curious. So let's see something. How do I find the network code? Oh, I'm drifting away from authentication. Consider this. It's okay. You know what? I'm drifting away. There's a way of finding the network code. Perhaps every application has a. Let me see network code. Let me just search. Wow, the search works. That's awesome. So the telco of the phone number entitled uses the application. So 027. Let's try this question. It's still the same. For now, just ignore it. Okay, just ignore it. Later you need it somewhere, but now you don't really need it. I need this that is working. So now let's go in this using postman. Now let's use the simulator for it to work. So for the simulator, we're going to sign in. Okay, I'm signed in, and we're going to access the simulator. So this is the simulator, and you can just get that one from here. Let's give some time to load. Okay. Right, so let's type our phone number here. I'll use an MTN number here. Then that's why we need a network code, because when we're on their platform, we need a network code. Let's connect. Oh, and the reason is why is it not connecting? Have we signed out? Let's sign out. Could be that our session has expired. So let's refresh it and see. Yeah, our session has expired. So let's log in again. Okay. I'll explain this one later. Right, so our session has expired, so we are back in. Let's go to our simulator. Let's launch it again. So we are saying that our number is 0247. That's an MTN number, and we are using MTN on this phone. So we are going to dial the code. Now we want to access our USSD on the simulator. On Postman, we just fired a request with the payload and then we're gone. We said our service code was 852, but I don't think on live 852 will be available. So we need to type the USSD code that will help us to access our application. And then now we are going to the technical nitty-gritties. So let's dive in. Okay, so let's go. USSD applications. There are 3 things you need to know about USSD applications. 1, they are menu driven. 2, they are session driven. 3, they are accessed via USSD codes. When I say USSD applications are menu driven, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that the front end view that you want to use to access your backend logic is based on menus. As simple as that. The menu is the way that you access it because it's from a GSM technology. So every logic you have, you are the one going to be able to design it based on the menu way. If it was front end, every view you want to render, you're going to do it based on your designing skills with front end technology such as HTML and CSS. That one is your work as a programmer. So that's where maybe some programming or development is there, or some work is there. That's the same thing with USSD. So USSDs are session driven. What does that mean? What it means is that it doesn't store the state. That would be too technical. What it simply means is that there has to be some form of recognition or registration of an activity on an application. And if you're in primary school, if you go to school, there's a register that the teacher used to register your name, and probably will give you your registration ID, that's you presence for today. So sessions too are more of the occurrence or of an activity or of an event within a specified time. So you know that this person was inside, or identify a particular person inside an application, just like a classroom register. That's the same concept behind USSD. So if for instance on web applications you're accessing a web application, every time you log into something like facebook.com or even facebook.com, it recognizes you as the person that came inside with the session. It stores your session to keep track of your activity because HTTP is stateless. This one, if you don't understand Google, you understand. So you see, Facebook is recognizing me because my session ID or is using some form of cookies or some way to store my state on the application, so I don't lose track of anything. Just in case I hit a refresh button, it's not like my session is lost. So USSDs are like that; they are session based. And the last thing is that USSD are accessed via codes. And then the codes are of 2 forms. It could be shared or dedicated. Now let's explain shared. When you say a shared USSD application, it means that the short code is you have a subdomain on the domain. So that's what it means by shared. But when you have a dedicated, it means that one person, one company is using that USSD code. That's what it means. I don't go too technical. I'll explain the technical things later. I want us to just run the application, but before right now, you have to understand these things. When you're done building your USSD application, you have to expose it via URL. The same way when you're writing a web application, when you're done, you expose it via URL. So if when Mark Zuckerberg was done building his Facebook, he exposed it with a URL, maybe web.facebook.com. That's the URL we know. And it's not even Facebook, Google Scholar too, or any URL. There's a URL that you use. So that URL is what the USSD platform you're using will need. Now I keep saying USSD platform. The actual web is USSD Aggregator, because there are 2 ways of building a USSD application. So let's look at how our USSD looks like. So I'm going to use command PowerShell to start a tool or a service as known as ngrok. Ngrok is going to help us expose our application to the world because it's hidden behind localhost. When I say it's hidden behind localhost, it's running only on my machine, but no one in another world or somewhere can access my application. So ngrok HTTP and the port number. The port number we want to bind to this HTTP is 4567. So ngrok is going to do that reverse and proxy for us so that the content are not only accessible on localhost. So ngrok says that this is a URL you should use if you want other people to reach your application or you want to accept outside connections. So I'll take this URL, and if I do replace it with this, you see it's it still has to give me the same field that I had in my localhost. So if I do fire the request, it's still the same. So I'm going to pick this URL and I'm going to my platform, the platform which is called an aggregator. We are going to create a channel, and remember the channels are two types: dedicated or shared. Because we are on the Africa Stocking platform, now aggregator or gateway, the shortcode, the dedicated USSD service is 384 hash. That is the AP, that is the gateway that is going to allow everybody on any platform, that's any subscriber on any telco can use *384 to access this application, because the Africa Stocking engineers have designed or have built an aggregator for people to be able to use the USSD on all telco networks, and that's because most of the time USSD is coming from the telcos, the GSM technology, because telcos around that use GSM technology. So if, for instance, MTN, when you want to use mobile money on MTN, the short code you use for MTN is *170 hash. That's the short code you use for MTN, and it's only for MTN, and it's even saying MTN Ghana. You understand what I'm saying? That's what you use to access MTN. So if right now some Jack wants to use mobile money from Zambia, or he wants to use, I want to use mobile money services, but I want to use it from Airtel Tigo phone or Airtel Tigo subscriber. Airtel Tigo 2 has created their own mobile money service, and Airtel Tigo is on *110 hash if I'm right. Airtel Tigo. Let's Google. So what you are seeing is that you are seeing that each telco is providing its own USSD app for the purpose of just mobile money. Every telco has their own mobile money short code you can use. So the beauty of the aggregator is to do all this consolidation, bring all these different subscribers onto one platform, so that they all have access to mobile money irrespective of what their subscriber. So a company is intentionally set up for that, and that's how they call the fintech companies. So the fintech companies are the ones that are mostly into providing services to maybe banks, non-banks, telcos, different telcos, a whole lot. It's very broad, and you can make a lot of money from fintechs if you're a fintech company, provided you understand your product or your purpose or your role or what you do very well. So you see, for mobile money, this is for just Airtel Tigo Ghana. This is for subscribers on Airtel Tigo. This is the code you have to use. So we have two codes now. We have Airtel Tigo. Let's bring Notepad. Let me just use my whiteboard here. I'm pulling up my whiteboard. I don't know. Let me just get Notepad. Make it fast and easy. So we have *110 hash mobile money services. By the telco is what? Airtel. *170 hash mobile money services. By the telco is what? MTN. Vodafone to also have their own star. Let's just go Vodafone on too. Okay, so Vodafone 2 says, I think Vodafone 2 goes with, let me be sure. It's *10. Okay, *110 hash 2 seems like what it looks like. So we have *110 hash 2 mobile money services, and this is for Vodafone. Alright, so you see, because the telcos have subscribers, Airtel Tigo subscribers use this, MTN subscribers use this, Vodafone subscribers use this. So all these subscribers. So if you are Airtel Tigo subscriber, you want to use MTN's mobile money services, because you are not on their subscriber database, and then you are not on their telco prefix. It's not a registered telco prefix. It's not going to work. To tell you that it's an unknown device. You try and figure that one out. Then I have *110. So the work of the aggregator is, if I come as a fintech and I build *389. That's eTransat. eTransat is a fintech in Ghana. Oh no, they're not really in Ghana. They are global. A global fintech that's been able to aggregate, helps to access a lot of stuff, bill payment, airtime purchase, money transfers, bank transfers on their platform. So this *389 is the aggregator that, in other words, will sit on top of all this. Just take it like that. Another company too is the Corba to, I think they also *365 hash. So they are building an aggregator that sits on all this, so that if Kwesi, well, let me just give another one. So let's just start 404 hash. So if Kwesi, so if I have Airtel Tigo, I have Vodafone, I have MTN, all of us can use Momo services and other fintech products or services they provide, because they have done the aggregation and stuff. So what they've done is that they've bought a USSD software, they've installed it, and then they've done connections or configurations at the back end, so that they can route all requests from different telco operators to them. That's how I understand it. It's as simple as that. Very, very simple. That's all that they've done. Because they've done some configuration to be able to recognize this person from MTN. They could be using MTN's API. They could be using Vodafone's API. They can be using Airtel Tigo's API. And all of them have been integrated onto one platform. So there's a common, take this way, there's a common request. There's a common request, and there will be a common response. Let's say a common request. What I mean is that the payload you will send to the aggregator will be the same for, the parameters will be the same for parameters, let's say may or will be the same will be the same for maybe Vodafone or any other telco, So that's a common payload, and that common payload that has been provided by Africa's token is this. It's the session ID, phone number, service code, and text, and then sometimes your network code. Network code is also there. That's what they have done. So this is the payload you send to them. Now there's a text element to it. So the text element is the input mechanism you're going to use to get what you want from the USSD. So because USSD is menu based, every menu, when I say menu, what I mean is that you see, when you go to a restaurant, you have continental, you have drinks, you have snacks, you have this. Each page gives you one menu, another page gives you another menu, this page gives you this menu. So each page, each entry to the USSD application will give you a view. So that's why it's session. That's why it's menu driven, because it's on your phone. But if it was to be a website or were to be a web page, each link you create takes you to a different page. If I click here, let me just click. I go to the tutorials endpoint or page. I go to tutorials endpoint and I'm rendered the tutorials view. If I go to the USSD, I click on USSD the overview, I'm sent to the docs USSD overview page or endpoint, and I'm presented with the view. In that same vein, if I want to see what consists or contains for each menu, I have to pass in a text. So there are two ways of passing the text. You pass the text as that's the API. The API says that if you want to pass a text, you have to pass in let me see. It has to be a string, a sequence of strings, mostly separated by star. So yeah, this shows a user input. It's an empty string in the first notification of a session. After that, it concatenates all the user's input within a session with a star until the session ends. So that's how you pass a string for the USSD. So this is the parameters that you have to pass. So that's the aggregation they've done. This is a common request they've done. And the response, the common response, when I say common response, I'm saying for when you download that shortcode, you can see this, you can see that. Don't worry about that. You can even interpret your own response based on what, but the request has to be this, right? The response, I say common response. I know you get what I'm saying. Yeah, so just understand that. So common request, common response. We need to call this common request. We call this common response. But whatever you do here depends on you. How you interpret it depends on you. Alright, fine. So that's the work of the aggregator. Now I'll say something about that's the text and the input in the menu that we've explained so far. So we've looked at the text, we've looked at the menu, we've looked at the request. There's another thing about session based. There's a con and there's an end. Okay, so con is how you start the session. So because it's going to stream to it's going to stream to the USSD API, and it's going to go to the GSM technology. How do we know that we started the session? In WebAuth, you start the session by logging in, and then once you log in or once you sign in for the first time, you can recognize the session by session ID. You can set a cookie. There are so many ways of doing that. Some do it authentication, whereby you give your username and password. Basic authentication is username and password. Then you know that someone has logged in because the validations have been done and it's correct. So it gets a session. That's when we can store the session in cookie. So if it logs out, then the session expires. But most of the time when people log out, the cookie is still available because it's a cookie. But if you go and put the web URL on a different browser in incognito mode or in private view, the cookie will not work because the application server, the app state would have been lost too. So there's a theory behind it. I've done it. There's a code film on that. I think I've done a code film on that before. I'm not sure. Yeah, whereby we're explaining session scope, page scope, and application scope, and that's from there. That's coming from the web server or application server. The application server is the one that gives you that ability to do that. So yeah, you can check that one out. So con tells you that the session has begun, just as we've explained, and then end says the session has ended. So when we do con, because a session has opened up, the URL, you're always open for input. That's what it means. But when you do end, you are saying that I'm not open for input, so my session will end. So right now my session has begun. So let's just see how it will work on the simulator. The plenty talk is because I want to use a simulator. So now we've explained this one, we've explained channel. So the channel let's go back to the channel. Simply means that, so what the channel is saying, that see as I explained mention of the aggregation. So the channel is an app. So just take that, it's an app. When I say it's an app, you have someone who wants to use your service, but he wants to go. Let's just go subdomain and domain. So when you go to google.com is the main domain. That's the domain. Then it's saying that this is the search engine. Anything you want to do, or any product that's coming from Google, they will not go and create a different URL and say maybe Scholar. I know some products, maybe you have Scholar.google. They won't go and create maybe scholargoogle.com. Scholar, don't give a URL, Scholar from google.com, blah blah blah. This can be done somewhere, fine, because you definitely create a new web application and you put it on a different web server or application server and you deploy it. But when you deploy it, you want it to be mapped to the same domain, even though it's a deep site, you know it's coming from Google. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the essence of the subdomain and domain. So Drive, for instance, Drive is a different product from Google, but it's on Google's subdomain. So if you do drive.google.com, you access Drive. And how do you know that it's coming from Google, even though it's a Drive, it's a cloud storage platform? When you do whois IP lookup and you pass the Drive URL, it says google.com/drive. that's the Drive endpoint. You pass the Drive URL to this search application. It's actually going to give you the DNS records, or most of the time what you need is the DNS information about the website, because DNS does the domain name, the domain name system. That's what help you to know how to resolve IP addresses to domain names, because that application, that configuration is done at the hosting site or the hosting web server. So you can set up the number of servers and lookups and all those stuff, name servers and stuff at the back end for your web app to work comfortably. So if I pass in for now, it says enter domain name or IP address. I pass in google.com Drive and I do search. You should be able to pull some information for me about their DNS record. So it says that the domain is what? google.com. The registrar is Mark Monitor. In other words, when Google finished their work and then they had a raw IP address, when I say they had a raw IP address, they had something like 1, 2, maybe, I don't know how they did it, but maybe they have 192.86.something, this 84.90.1. When they had this, then they took it to Mark Monitor. They bought a domain from Mark Monitor, and the Mark Monitor will give them the domain name. They'll check if it's available, and then they'll give it to them. Now when they are done, where they do their deployment of their content is up to them, but that's how it's mostly done. Yeah, so it gives you the domain ID, the registrar's URL. It tells you the updated time, the creation dates, a whole lot of information about the domain name, the name servers, more of backups or failover. Yeah, so it gives you a lot of information about just the Google system. It's not giving us IP addresses. I'll take some IP addresses. So, but you know that this for Drive. That's when we entered Drive. Did we enter Drive? Drive.google.com. This is what we are getting. So, just for your eye only. Yeah, so that's for you to appreciate it. Yeah. Let's look at another example and see. I want to use a different lookup service. Let's try this before. Sorry. Let's try the first one and see. Let's punch it here. Okay. Did I punch the right thing? Sorry. HTTP. So DNS records, and so this one gives us the IP address and some other information, like the host name, SOA, TTL and stuff. Type A, I know this A and C names. This one's information. So I'm just copying this IP address and I'm going to access this on the web and see where to route us to. It sends us back to Google. So you see that it's coming from Google. So how the mapping is being done at the back end, it's not, it's being done by hosting configuration somewhere. So that's the concept of domain and subdomain. That's the same thing that's happening with our channel. So our channel is a product or an app or a service that wants to be on that platform because of that platform's services that they have. So that's the essence of the channel. So if MTN mobile money is so robust and so powerful that a company will come and say MTN that we want to have insurance on stars 170 hash, the insurance will have an extension on a channel. It will have a channel. I like the word channel. In other words, their own pipe to the MTN mobile money services. Their own pipe to the MTN mobile money services, but to belong to that company because they don't use the MTN's aggregator, MTN service, but it will be only for MTN customers. But if they want to access all customer base, then probably they want to use a fintech's USSD code, and that's where eTransact, Corba, ZPs, they all come inside. So that's the basic understanding. And so we'll create our own channel here too. Then I'm going to set the callback URL. Now callback URL, just as we said with the web, you do the deployment, you get a URL for so everybody can use it. And that URL is something like Facebook URL that we explained earlier. So I also need that URL for our application to be accessed on this platform. So this is the URL. Because we use ngrok to expose it. Now let's see, without ngrok, this is what would have happened. Without ngrok, if I copy what's on localhost and go and paste it there, let's see what the response we get from the menu. We've created it. Now using what is our localhost, let's copy this USSD service code. This is a service code, and let's go to our simulator and let's paste this now. So we want to access the Horizon Bank linking portal on 384. But if Horizon Bank had their own aggregator, that will be accessible on networks. So in other words, they have a USSD gateway that they are going to use, so all networks can access them. Then that's also like they are becoming like a fintech. The banks are smart too. So a good bank I know is EcoBank. EcoBank star 70 hash, star 7 star 770 or star 77, I think star 70 star 770 hash. It's for EcoBank. And then we also have GCB, which is star 422. That's for GCB. And I think there's also another bank too. So let's go with EcoBank star 770 star 770. And that's their gateway. You can access this on all networks. It could also be that EcoBank going to see each individual telco that assigns star 770 for I'll put that for all telcos, so they could have built their own gateway and assigned to star 770. Alright, so if Horizon Banks on this star 384, now we set the linking up solely on this channel because star 384 belongs to Horizon, but because it doesn't belong to Horizon, we've built a whole app and we're extending it on 384, or we're channeling it through 384. So if we dial this right now, looking at our callback, let's see what we get. We're dialing it on our phone and our number is MTN. Our number is MTN because we use MTN to sign up, if you remember. So let's do it again. We're using MTN to sign up. You can also use Tigo to sign up. And realize that the Tigo to also work. Let's copy this. Let's start it again. It says, dear customer, the network is experiencing technical problems. Your request was not processed. Please try again. And that's because our callback URL is a localhost callback. It cannot be accessed on the cloud because it's a localhost. So you have to expose that IP to the world. So if you go to the sessions, there's a log. They tell you there's a failure. And let's go. The time is 10:17. That's today. 10:17. Let's see the details. It says, dear customer, it says let's look at the error message. URL call filled with error TCP command because connection has been refused. Firewall and stuff.